What's up, everybody? This is Bark After Dark. It's Monday. We're here with you. I'm with Jake Rowe. I'm Jake Rowe. I'm with Jake Roos. Make that mistake ourselves sometimes to get each other kind of mixed up. But listen, we're off to a Bark After Dark start. Roos, what you up to, man? You went into hiding this week. You got to recap that for us. We really got to get into your vacation, though.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the vacation. It's very nice, though, man. Had a great time. Just rented a little cabin. Didn't go too far from home. Just kind of got away from it all for a few days. So that was nice.
Did you see Sasquatch?
I did not. I was hoping to. I did see a bear, which was pretty cool. I hadn't seen a bear out in the woods in a long time. What have you been up to? Little illness running through the Rowe household, yeah?
Oh man, COVID tore through us, man. COVID tore through us. It got my son last week. It got my daughter late in the week. It got my wife, who was in rough shape on Saturday. COVID, man. It's back. COVID. If this was
why did you say it like it was the McRib? Like
I know, right? If this was pardon my take, I feel like it's taboo, and maybe that's just kind of us on some very, innocent taboos. I feel like it's taboo to bring up another podcast on your podcast or on your live show or whatever. But pardon my take, who's back of the week? COVID would be back in my household, coming on strong. COVID's doing some of those. COVID this weekend when my wife was doing some of those bodybuilder poses that you're just like, I don't even know what you're doing. Hey, why are your hands behind your back? What are you trying to flex right now? All I've seen is muscle since you walked in the room.
How did have you had it?
I had it, as far as I know, I've only had it one time.
Okay. When was that?
That's a good question. I think it was 2022. I got it. I know where I was at. I was at the beach. Because we were supposed to do, the funny thing is like we were supposed to do like 2 straight weeks at the beach. We were going to 2 different places. We were going to Curry Beach, North Carolina. Then we're going to drive straight from there and go down 95 and go to Amelia Island and do vacation with my wife's family. And we were super excited about it. We were really fired up, man. And I got COVID like on the 5th day of the first week. And so
that was it.
Yeah, that was it. And couldn't taste or smell.
I've had it 3 times that I know of. The first was easily the worst. It was really rough that first go around. It was just the body ache was what was so upsetting, man. Like it was like being beat with a hammer in your sleep. It was rough. COVID is back.
COVID is back. It is, man. God. I mean, it's. I didn't have it. It didn't get me that bad at all. The only thing it gave me a cough that kind of stuck around for about 3 months. And then finally I was like, when this cough goes away, I'm going to start, I'm going to, get back in the gym and try to start, getting back on some cardio and stuff like that. And, as we'll find out later, I got a fat boy story to tell, but it takes work for me not to just balloon out of control the way I eat. I've got to do better about the way I eat, but, I eat like a fat man. There's some of these people, they're like for 350 pounders. I swear I don't eat a whole lot. I'm not even going to deny it. I do. I eat to be way bigger than I am.
Sure.
And I'm probably going to die early the way I eat. But I do. I love it. And so, to get back to the point, I was going to the gym, even though I don't look like somebody who goes to the gym a lot, really. I wanted to go back, but I was like, daggum, I can't breathe. I can't stop coughing. And I went back to the gym and I did cardio for a couple of days, just kind of committed to it, and the cough went away. So, that was, but ultimately it was kind of a non-issue for me. And I'm not saying that to make any sort of point, obviously. I mean, it is what it is, and it was serious to a lot of people. So I'm not trying to downplay what it was, but that's the only time I know that I've had it. And my house has gotten it 3 times. This is the 3rd time. They've yet to give it to me. But when I got it that one time, I gave it to every single one of them.
Sure. That's impressive that you've been able to dodge it in such close quarters like that. Luckily so, I'm sure, because I bet some of them were pretty miserable.
Yeah, I've got I feel like I got the immune system of like a crocodile.
Yeah,
Just all sorts of rancid, poisonous things
going
through my blood, but I'm good.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad you survived. I'm glad everybody else survived. And is everybody back up to speed now? Everybody back to school? And
oh yeah, they don't even hardly make them miss school anymore, dude. It's kind of like, hey, no
I
fever.
didn't know if they felt bad. I didn't know if they were sick.
They barely felt bad to begin with. My wife had a rough weekend, but my kids barely felt bad to begin with. Now the protocol is no fever for 24 hours, and are you feeling better? Like our symptoms improving, and that's kind of the protocol now. So, tell you what, we've come a long way since 2020, buddy. We've come a long way in 4 years.
There is no doubt. Yeah, I'm sorry you had to deal with that. My week was a lot better than that. I quite enjoyed my time. It was my vacation, and I was trying to figure it out. I don't think I had taken a vacation. I really don't know that I could tell you the last time, Jake, that I took a vacation prior to this week. I don't recall being off for even 4 to 5 days straight. I don't think I've done that in a long time. I'm very bad if I'm going to travel, if I'm going to take a trip or a vacation. I'm very bad to haul my laptop along with me. Oh, I should do some writing kind of preemptively. I mean, God, for God's sakes, I'm technically still on vacation today, but we are doing Bark After Dark. So I'm kind of keeping in the tradition.
I've got a theory on why that is, and I think you and I sharing this. Nothing passes time like working in this business. Like you get started working on something and you dig into something, or you get into the message boards and start kind of getting into message board mode where you're wanting to talk with people on our website. Nothing will suck time faster than that. And if you're trying to kill a couple of hours, like it's just, I think at this point our minds are kind of trained to like, all right, this is kind of energy saving, time killing mode.
Yeah. No, we've essentially, by virtue of the job, like turned our brains to goo.
This is why we should all be really scared of AI.
Yes, I agree. And we'll talk about AI here in a little bit, because I ran into some AI stuff over the course of this vacation, surprisingly, if you can believe that. But so I got a buddy that I know from one of the local breweries here in town. I got to talking to him a couple months back, and he mentioned he had this little cabin out in the woods. And I said, man, that sounds like a cool spot. I would really like to check something like that out sometime. He said, well, we Airbnb it. You're welcome to go stay there if you'd ever like to. I kind of woke up, I guess, last Saturday or something. Saturday before last, I guess I should say. And realized that the season was basically staring me down the face. And I was like, if I'm going to have a vacation, I need to do it now. I got to go. So I got everything lined up and I headed out for the woods. I pretty well overbought food. That's probably a fair way to say it, but I didn't know who was coming. I was not totally solo. People dropped in along the way. Nobody was there consistently the whole time.
You weren't close enough to make another trip out for rations.
I was. Yeah, no, I was.
But you were? Okay.
No, it was a pain in the ass. The road from pavement, I was probably 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
But it was a really nasty section of road. It was real craggy. You weren't going fast. I mean, it was just washed out and trees down everywhere. And so you weren't that far away from civilization, but you kind of felt like it. And that was nice, because after the first night, I said, okay, what do I need? What do I need to run back in and get? I ran in. There was a dollar store, like I said, 15, 20 minutes down the road. I stopped in there. There was a gas station. They had some beer. The whole thing was taken care of. And it was kind of like the best of both worlds. It was like I could be away, but if I really needed something, I could run back up and get it. Anyway, I didn't take my laptop. I did not have Wi-Fi at this place. The place across the street did. And the guy was kind enough to let me come over and shoot a few text messages just to check in with people, that kind of thing. But for the most part, Jake Rowe, I did not do anything. I went and Craggy. Yes. It is. It's a craggy ass road.
First time I've ever heard it. First time I've ever heard the word ever.
Rough. Really? You don't know?
At least that I've realized. It's by me. Somebody may have said it, and I just kind of brushed it out.
Perhaps you might remember the early '90s Nickelodeon game show Guts, where they had to call the Astro Crag was what they had to conquer, and then you got a piece of the Astro Crag at the end.
Yeah.
At any rate,
don't remember.
The road was quite craggy. I didn't do much though, man. I spent a lot of time. It was right on this road. It was right on the main road of the wilderness, I guess. There were some houses back in there, more than I'd suspected. I spent a lot of time, man, just drinking beer and waving at people. That was my main activity, I would say, for the week. I would just sit out there. I'd get a couple of beers, and I'd just sit in a chair, and people would drive by, and I just, how you doing? Good morning. And that was how I spent a lot of the time. I read a whole book, which was nice. I hadn't done that in a long time. Been a minute since I sat down and just really tore through a book. Did some painting, went on a little hike, went up to Lake Conasauga, the highest lake in the state of Georgia in terms of elevation. That was nice. So it was pretty chill, man.
So where were you exactly? Where were you? Drop some GPS.
I was kind of equidistant between Ellijay and Chatsworth. If that gives you any semblance of, I was in there's a place called Mulberry Gap Adventure Base Camp that is kind of in the area. From Ellijay, I was probably a good 25, 30 minutes. So, but anyway, it was out in the sticks, but like I said, not totally. And it was good that I didn't have internet. I enjoyed that. My screen time notification on my iPhone was, I think, the lowest it's ever been. So that was nice to see as well. And it was just good to kind of get off of the path, man. Get out a little bit. Coming back, I think that it's something I would absolutely do again, and I hope to do again. I think that it's probably the way for the foreseeable future that I would like to see myself vacationing.
Okay.
Because I was super close to home. It all worked out really beautifully. I was super close to home. Yeah, so right in this area. This is where I'm at.
Yeah, and if you back it out, state of Georgia.
Yeah, sure. North America. The beauty of it, in my opinion, was that there was no anticipation of going to the airport. There was no anticipation of going to pick up the rental car, of getting into the Airbnb, of will the flight be delayed? Will I have to pay $18 for a Gordon beer schmear? It was like, I got in my car. I drove. This place was about 55 minutes from my house. I drove just down the road. I hung out. When I was done, I packed my stuff. I drove back. I was back and unpacked within an hour and a half, and vacation seemingly was over. That was very relieving to me. I was, in fact, shocked by how much that was a relief to me.
Yeah, I feel you on that, because one of the toughest parts of getting home from vacation in the Rowe household is my beautiful wife, who I dearly love more than anything in the world. We unpack everything and put everything back in its place the moment we get back.
Yeah, that's tough.
And you know what? It is a phenomenal practice.
It is. It is.
I recognize it. Now, do I have to just push through it? I do, buddy. I do. I absolutely do. Because we drive back from Curry Beach. We always make the trip back all the way back, because you just get a little boost of energy getting back home. You just do. And I'm talking about the moment the wheels stop, I'm in there just singing Metallica, give me fuel, give me fire, get in my brain, doing everything I can to keep myself up, because I know it's going to be 9 trips to the basement, and we're putting away our beach stuff for the summer. Sure. All this for the rest of the summer, because we're not going to be going back to the beach, all that stuff. So rinsing off all the stuff that was dirty, got to clean the car out, all of that stuff. So I do envy that part of it. I also just
Yeah.
envy, maybe a couple days alone by myself.
Yeah, sure.
That would be pretty cool too.
No, man, I gotta say, I think it was pretty worthwhile. I got a little freaked out the one night. I was, I was laying on the couch like by myself, and I was like, damn, like if somebody comes in this house, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be dead. I'm gonna have to fight them off, and no one's gonna hear me scream probably out here. So,
yeah, you 37-year-old zoo kept creature.
Yeah, right,
you got no way to defend yourself out there.
Sure. And luckily I had He-Man DVDs to kind of soothe my anxiety. Well, they didn't have cable. They had this big trunk of DVDs. And so the first night I think I watched Ratatouille, which I'd never seen before. And then the second night I was like, all right, well, what am I gonna watch? And
that mouse can throw down, dude. That mouse can throw down.
Yeah, he can cook like hell, couldn't he?
He cooked like hell. Saffron.
No, but I ended up watching like He-Man, and I had not watched that stuff in probably 30
Was it
years.
okay? So was it the cartoon?
It was the cartoon, yes. Yeah, I hadn't watched it in probably 30 years. I couldn't believe of all the DVDs that they could have that they would have the He-Man DVD, and so it was.
It doesn't hold up that great.
It does not at all.
It doesn't. I've seen it not too long ago, and I remember being, ooh, like
it was a lot weirder show than I remembered it being.
Yeah,
like, I thought of it being like a lot more just like clear cut, like good guy, bad guy. Like, but like Skeletor was like kind of just a nuisance. Like he kind of just reveled in picking at He-Man. Like he didn't really want to. He didn't seek to kill him all the time.
Yeah, it wasn't always this evil.
Yeah, he wanted to like bother him. And he had that Gilbert Gottfried kind of voice going on too. And it was the whole thing was.
I came across this not too long ago, and I'm surprised this hasn't come up in conversation with me and you. Okay. But I came across He-Man on something. I don't know what it was on. And I remember watching it for a few minutes, being like, man, I remember I used to love this. And it's been, I mean, come on, I'm 42 years old. That's probably been like 36 years ago.
Sure.
Right. Because I remember liking it young. And I just wanted to watch it for nostalgia's sake. And I remember watching it for a couple minutes, and then I was like, am I on some sort of like Vice? Am I on Vice, and they've like dubbed this to make this like really trippy, for people that are just getting stoned out of their minds and watching this.
Yeah.
Like, is that what I'm dealing with here? No, it was on some sort of classic cartoon weird thing that I get with my cable package. And I was stunned. I was like, oh my God. Like I think the guys that wrote this, were dropping acid.
Do you think that's what was happening? Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, brother. There's no question about it. But there were like all these strange elements to it. Like we'll get back to my vacation at some point.
There was zero plan to talk about He-Man on this show.
I know. Yeah, but like the battle cat, right? With like the tiger that he rides on. Like that was like a Scooby-Doo character, which I didn't remember. Like he's like goofy, like he's like, oh, we gotta, and then he like turns into the monster, the battle cat. And then there was like the guy who was a fish. He's like a merman or something, I think was his name. He's Skeletor's friend. Goof on that guy. Like the whole thing, I was like, this is poorly thrown together. And then they come at the end with those ham-fisted like, today, He-Man and Skeletor shared teamwork. The lesson of the day was teamwork, and I was like, it felt like an after school special more than it did like a kid's cartoon. It was very, very weird. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's like I said, man, it's weird. And it's funny. How many episodes do you think you watched?
I think I watched 3 or 4.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, strange stuff, man. And I just remember being like, man, this must have just flown straight over my head when I was a kid, because I really did, man. I thought the producers at Vice had bought some rights to it or something, and they were just dubbing over it to make it like really weird and because I was almost cracking up at it, but it was almost a little too weird to crack up at.
To me, it was so interesting. The thing that I kind of took away from it was that I was like, this was not for kids. This was not a show for kids. This
was Adult Swim.
This was for it was like Adult Swim. It was
this
like
was Adult Swim way before its time.
Yeah, it was like Space Ghost Coast to Coast a lot. It was
it was
very strange.
By the way, as a quick aside, not that we're not way off track anyway, perpetually off track and perpetually online, except for Roos this past weekend. Did you ever watch the show Seventh Heaven coming up?
No. I'm familiar with what that is, but I've never seen it.
Man, there is a social media account. It's on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and everything. And I run across it from time to time where it reviews the conflict in those old episodes. And it's like and it'll be like, oh man, Jimmy's smoking pot. And dude, it's like the end of the world. Like it is like scramble the jets.
Yeah, sure.
Scramble the jets. There's a 19-year-old out there smoking pot, And then the mom has to admit to the dad, who is a pastor, I smoked pot one time. And it was almost like, how was the dad ever going to forgive her and trust her? I'm telling you, man, it is. You just got me thinking about watching old shows and how ridiculous they were and didn't hold up. They got me thinking about that one. And it was just, I'm telling you, man, absolutely out of control. Out of control what we used to come on our televisions. Some of it still holds up. I mean, like, obviously, man, Seinfeld still holds up. Of course. I mean, I guess in its own way, He-Man probably does too, if you go into it with the right mindset of, hey, let me see this goofy stuff and laugh at it. Because like I said, it was Adult Swim before its time. So,
well, and like I said, I'd had a couple of beers, and so I was like, what the hell is this? Like, what's going on with this? So it was a very weird thing to run into over the course of my vacation. Although it made me crack up a little bit of like, it'd been a long time since I put a DVD in a DVD player. And I'm not talking about like I put it into an Xbox. I'm talking about a dedicated real DVD player. I was like, this is what a relic this is almost.
I mean, the VHS tapes, man.
Oh, sure. God.
I mean,
my buddy Robert, who I know you know.
Yeah, I know Robert.
I firmly believe at his home, probably one of the finest curated collections of VHS tapes in the world. Rooms.
There, what's funny is we've got. I believe I'm going to sound like a mega pastor on a Sunday morning cast chair, but I know we've got somebody out there that hadn't experienced having to rewind a VHS tape at the last minute, first thing in the morning, because it's Monday and your mom's got to take it to work. She's got to take it by to the video store on the way home from work, right? So she's got to have it. She's not coming all the way back out to the house to get it and drive all the way back to Pearson to Atco Video. Man, Harry Mullis.
Sure.
She's not going all the way back out there, to do that. So you got to have that thing. And, I got to stick that thing in there and rewind it first thing in the morning. We're trying to head out the door. I need 10 seconds. 10 seconds is an eternity when you're trying to be on time for school, But no, VHS. I think about what we do now and the days of VHS tapes, and I'm just like, this is like, I never imagined it. I never had a thought back then, like, hey man, what if there was a device that you could just pop around to different.
You've heard that story of like, apparently like Blockbuster passed on the opportunity to buy Netflix.
Which is wild.
They could have had it, and it would have, they could have continued their whole business model, and instead the whole thing just fell apart.
I know you're not a movie guy, but I will say something that I romanticize from my adolescence is the going to Blockbuster first before you pick up some pizza, before you you probably do more for a video game standpoint than from a movie standpoint.
I spent a lot of time in the video store, but I wasn't I very rarely was renting movies. I was always
every weekend, man. It was rent one or two movies and a video game.
Yeah,
and my golden era was PlayStation, not PlayStation, was Sega Genesis. That was my, and then obviously some games came on after that, like GoldenEye on 64 and PlayStation with, Game Breaker. College Game Breaker was a big game on that. And so I obviously played those, but man, I played that Bill Walsh college football that Sega, and you would go and you'd rent it for the weekend, and then you would keep it for 3 more weeks, and you'd owe $70.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. My dad still has never let me live down. He rented me a video game and I didn't take it back for like a month. And he came back and there was like $120 worth of fees on the thing. And still to this day, he will bring up the fact that I didn't return that game.
All right, let's dive back off the cliff we just hiked up and come back down to the original point, which is your vacation. Finish it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, so it was very, like I said, it was cool. It was a good way to disconnect. Had a chance to hike out to one of the largest trees in Georgia, which was a pretty incredible thing to see. It was gigantic.
What kind is it?
It's a poplar. It was a big poplar. And it probably, I mean, I don't know what your wingspan's supposed to be like, same as your height, right? So, I mean, I would say it was called the Jeanette poplar. You can probably find a picture of it. The Jeanette poplar, that was neat. Had a chance to see that. Lake Conasauga was really cool. And somewhere that, I don't know, your family doesn't strike me as campers.
They have a camper, but they're not like go pitch tents and
right. Well,
it's more like, hey, let's take the camper to the beach.
Right. Conasauga, though, would be a good place to bring the camper. It's a really beautiful little lake. It's a kind of a bitch to get out there because they do not keep that road up super well. It's rutted out. Like I said, trees all over the place, but a really beautiful setting, man. And it was nice. Quinn happened to be there that day and actually said, he said, well, let's all enjoy the one time a year when we get Jake in the water. So I'm not a water person, and I got out and swam around for about an hour. So that was nice. It was relaxing, refreshing, but anyway, power went out eventually Saturday evening, and I decided I had too much food in the fridge. It was going to get warm, and so I cut vacation to the cabin a day short and came on back to the house. But I really, really enjoyed it, man. And like I said, I think it was the kind of thing that I want to start doing with some frequency because it was easy enough to pull off. It was easy enough to make a long weekend out of it. If I had a little bit of Wi-Fi, that is not me, but that gives you some scale.
I assume that's the one. It came off of like an LJ site.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I assume that's it.
So, like I said, it's something I can see myself doing a lot.
Looks like it might be Zach Thrower in that
photo. Why is that got a hoodie and bands on?
It's a mutual friend of ours.
Anyway, it was a good time, man. I only hate that it had to end. That was the big thing. It was. I got back yesterday and I kind of got the scaries a little. I was like, oh, I don't want to do it. So
yeah,
I guess you got to dive back in. But all in all, a solid vacation for me. Pretty happy with how it played out. Would do again. Probably will in the very near future.
Tell you what, if you do this job, and let me tell you something, man. Like, there are people listening to this that go to office every day and or skin their knuckles on something. You work a lot harder than we do, I guarantee you, because this is a dream job and I'm very fortunate to have it. But the one thing that I would say is when you go on any sort of vacation, if you don't have a little bit of break from the phone, if you don't dread getting back to the phone full speed like you need to be, coming after it, then you probably got something broken in the brain a little bit, I would say.
Yeah,
because that is my favorite part about going on vacation.
This was easily the longest I had been without my laptop. I left the laptop at home for 4 or 5 days, probably I would say in 10 years since I started doing the job. It was the longest.
Oh wow, dang!
Probably the longest I'd been without my laptop. It was some of the least service I'd had in that amount of time as well. I've always been, and I think part of it is just like the way I came into the business. Like when I started off, I just had to grind because I knew that I didn't have the connections and I didn't have the intel. And so I just was like, all right, I just got to beat people by virtue of being available more. And I did that for years and years and years. And then obviously I've kind of stepped things back a little bit, changed my roles somewhat, but still to me, that's just how I've always done it. That's always how I've done the business. And so to get the opportunity to totally disconnect from it was probably well overdue, to be honest with you, and also something I probably need to do a little bit better, because I think it'll allow me to work better. I think it'll allow me to kind of clear the cobwebs out and kind of, I mean, I still thought about work. I wrote about work. I took a journal out and I kind of wrote down some ideas and made some notes as I was reading that book of like, oh, this might be a cool series idea or something like that. So it wasn't like I didn't think about it at all, but I wasn't able to access it. And I think that was probably a pretty decent thing. Even though I did pop over, I'd go see that guy. Oh, I got to mention him. So the guy across the street from us lived there full time, younger guy than myself. And he is working on AI. That was what that's his job. And he lives out in the woods. He has Starlink and he works from his house largely. Now, the power went off several times while I was there. And I was like, this seems like a precarious place to be working on an internet-based company, in my opinion. But he was out there and I thought it was a very interesting, he said something and I was like, I don't like that you said, I told him that. I said, I don't like that you just said that. Because he was like, yeah, I mean, I want to be off the grid. And I was like, you're the AI man. Why do you want to be off the grid? What's going on? What do you know about? And we talked for a long time, and he said, apparently, I mean, not that he would tell me. I like I said, I had a few beers, so I was like, do you make the good AI or the bad AI? he said, oh no, we just make tools and it integrates with the stuff. We don't do the language learning models and all that. And, we talked for a good hour and a half, just about philosophy and about what he did professionally. And he was an interesting young man. But like I said, it was a little disconcerting to hear somebody who's that deep in it be like, probably best we get out in the woods real soon.
Yeah. I can't wait till we've got these, like in Pacific Rim, we've got these Jaeger-sized things patrolling the earth that are, we're hiding from them. That's going to be a lot of fun. All right. So,
what a transition.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. All right. So something you probably know nothing about, after being on vacation for a while, by yourself is, jaking off. You probably got no idea what that's like.
Sure.
So, let's get into it. I've got a question for you. Mine relates back to COVID. So, man, I remember we kept up with each other during COVID, and I remember some of the conversations we had. I'll never forget one of the most comments that stuck with me the most was when you said, "I can't believe how much less money I'm spending now that the bars are closed." I remember you telling me that. You're like, I'm buying beer to drink at home, and I'm saving so much money.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you. So we saw so many crazy things go down, so many crazy things said. What is the one thing that has stuck with you over the past 4 years and will probably stick with you for the next 40 if you live that long? What that was said or happened during the whole COVID thing? And it could be something that I'm not saying anybody's got to be able to relate to it or they saw it, but sure. Facebook, I mean, just something that you
that was one of the things that really stuck with me. There were two, and there were two memes that came out of it that made me laugh for a long time. One of them that I posted this, and it people just went bananas on me because people have very strong feelings about these subjects, and I get it. But it said, I think that everyone should have a forced vacation. And people got so up in arms about that because they just weren't reading it right. And people were like, I can't believe you would say this. This is ridiculous. And I was like, look, I just believe what I believe, man. I'm sorry. And I just keep it going until finally they would realize what they had just read. And then the other one that I don't know why it made me laugh as hard as it did. Well, I just like the absurd. You know that. I like strange things like that. There was one that was like, if you have been symptom free for 48 hours, you can now throw car batteries into the ocean. And I don't know why that made me laugh so hard. But it was like things were so arbitrary and happening so fast.
Yeah. That's a good,
that it was just like one of those things that was like, I don't whatever, do whatever at this point.
That's a good bit if you've got some time to kind of, for everybody, it's really good for everybody. It's not even that weird if you've got a second to lay a foundation there about kind of where you're coming from.
Yeah,
but but still, just the randomness of it makes it funny in and of itself.
Yeah, no, that all definitely stuck with me in a major way. It was something that, I don't know. Those were the big things. I mean, other than that, man, I didn't really do a lot. I hung around. Went through a tough breakup during COVID. I came home. I moved home during that time. So, honestly, I was kind of a little out of it, to be honest with you. I think you probably remember that. I was not doing so well. And so it was good to, I don't recall a lot about it other than that. The main thing, actually, the other thing that I remember was going to the national championship game in Indianapolis. And I was like, we're going to get it now. I was like, if I don't get it here, I'm never going to get it. And sure enough, when we drove home, my buddy Matt and we rode back from Indianapolis, and I got home at about 24 to 48 hours later. I was laid up.
I tell you what, man, I look back on that week though. That was a fun time in Indianapolis. Like I had such a good time there. Was it me, you, and Peyton Palmer went out to St. Elmo's? Josh Payton and Palmer Toms. We went out to St. Elmo's that first night we were there. I spent way too much money drinking Whistle Pig Rye on the rocks. I just kept ordering it over and over and over again, and I knew how much it was a pour, but I was just having a good time. And then we had another night, man, where we went to that really nice bar there downstairs at the JW Marriott, and we were back and forth between there and the sports bar. And that was the night we had a drink over at that other hotel, and Matt was with us. And that was a good night, man. And that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It won't beat LA though. I'm telling you, you do not know how much it means to the media to get that game over with at a reasonable hour, so that you can kind of come back and enjoy the magnificence that is a post national championship game media.
Sure, but I mean, there's no way that. Well, I guess I can't say that because I wasn't there for the second one, but there's no way that it felt the same. There's no way that the emotion was the same from the crowd.
No, for sure. For sure. Like
the severity of the beating was part of that. Also, too, the fact that you just experienced it the year before. And the year before was just that big cathartic moment, right? It was like, you'd waited all that time, and that weight was suddenly lifted. And that I just can't, like I said, I just can't assume that LA had that same vibe.
No, it didn't. There was a lot of energy though. That there was really, like, I don't want people to think like, oh man, it lacked energy. It was just such a different energy. It was like there was a confidence about it. Like the first time it was like, it was angst, and it was an explosion of pent up frustration, and there was so much emotion, like in a range of emotions, and how people were expressing them. The second one was kind of like, we won this a little over a week ago and we beat Ohio State. There was the expectation. It was the way the game went down. It was, I mean, for me, it was like taking a wrong turn in that stadium and ending up in cabanas that apparently Floyd Mayweather was just in, and all that stuff.
I remember that.
The security in that place was terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Like, I mean, I don't know what was worse, the stadium at keeping out rain or the security. And that's another thing too. I gotta say something about this. I hate it that people talk about how crappy that venue was, because that is a beautiful stadium on the inside. The way it's lit, it looks like a video game. Like you feel like you are inside virtual reality, but I mean, it is almost futuristic. It's amazing. And I get it, man. You got some rain on you during the game and it was cold, but Jesus Christ, it rains like twice a year down there. Yeah, sure. Like, I mean, it almost never
was not. I guarantee you it was not as cold as Indianapolis.
No, definitely not.
Bone chilling.
And that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why I'm like, I will say that the weather in Los Angeles absolutely sucked for that week too. It absolutely sucked. It was drizzling rain and cold and windy every day except really the first day we were there.
Yeah.
The night we went to Top Golf, it may have been that way too. But yeah, it just. But it was. I mean, in Indianapolis, it was below zero, and I don't deal with that. I've
horrible.
It's the first time in my entire life that I've dealt with sub-zero.
But that was the lone, in my opinion, that was the lone bad thing about Indianapolis.
Yeah, Indy does a good job, man. Indy is the ultimate high floor city. Like you're not going to go to Indianapolis and be like, this place is a dump. This place is a piece of shit. I never want to come back, because they're built on serving people. For conventions and things like that. It's easy to get around the city. There's a lot of good places to eat. There's some cool places to go do stuff kind of in the downtown area. I mean, you're a rock's throw from a decent experience.
Yeah, it was a very walkable city, which I can appreciate. I enjoyed it. Indy was cool. I have never minded. I think I've been there 3 times, and I've always had a pretty good time there.
Well, my favorite part of the COVID thing, I had about 3 people on my Facebook timeline who I don't know where they eventually landed, but at least once or at least twice they flip-flop back and forth between thinking it was serious and not having any clue about or not trusting anything anybody was saying about it. So it was kind of, I mean, one day it was like, and the next day we've got to be, honestly, and that happened early. It kind of, from that point on, kind of made me tune a lot of the discussion of it out, because I was like, man, we're all really confused, and I don't necessarily know if we need to be listening to each other.
Yeah.
Because we're just getting emotional responses to what we chose to believe.
Sure.
And that's when I kind of stopped, listening to it. I'll tell you, one of the toughest parts during that whole thing was managing a message board.
Oh God. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. I remember that.
That was very tough.
Yes. Yeah, deeply. All right. So I mentioned earlier, my question for you tonight, Jake Rowe, is I mentioned earlier that I read a book for the first time in a while, and I had not sat down and done that in some time. I was glad I did it. It was Rick Rubin's new book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being, I believe is what it's called. And basically, he just dove into, his process.
Where I come from, you get your ass kicked for reading stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. It was a great read, actually. I would highly recommend it. It was especially if you are a creative, you're a person who likes to write, or you like to paint, or even he made mention also he said the Philadelphia cheesesteak is a piece of art, and I was like, yeah, that's true. You never really think of it like that, but so I'm curious though, Jake, what is the last book that you read in its entirety?
I'm ashamed to admit this. I don't even know the name of the book, but it was such an easy read and it was kind of entertaining. I've got a soft spot for reality TV.
Okay.
Got a soft spot for reality TV, Bravo reality TV.
Like Housewives?
No, not Housewives. My number one is Vanderpump Rules. I watched it with my wife a little, several years back, and I like it. Like, I'll flip on one of those. I'll catch up on an entire season about 6 episodes in, because I'll just flip it on there at noon, and I'll be like, oh, let me catch up on this.
Sure.
And I'll just have it on while I'm working, and I'll get enthralled in. But there's another show, I think it's called Southern Charm.
Okay.
On there, and there's a guy that's kind of in the lead right there. I don't want to say anything bad about him, but I think he knows why people perceive him the way they perceive him. His name's Shep Rose, and he was in a fraternity at Georgia, went to undergrad at Georgia. He's from Hilton Head, South Carolina. I think he's where he's from. He did a thing with Bulldog Illustrated years back.
Wasn't this the guy that Rusty, didn't he get him on the steakhouse?
No, that was Jet. That was Jet and Pookie from TikTok.
Man, I don't know anything about any of this shit, and I'm so happy.
Hey, dude, I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, I don't get into commenting and telling them, oh, you do your thing. You look so cute. I'm not that. but man, I love the absurdity of it. Like it is such a caricature. And I'm not like making fun of these people, man. I hope these people are living their lives and having their best lives. Like I really am. And the fact that you're putting your stuff out there, that's some brave stuff. Like I know people make fun of it, right? But you're in a content creation world right now, and you are.
I mean, what happens here on the show, Southern Charm? What is it? Is it like
it's just about it's basically about some wealthy people in Charleston, South Carolina, and their drama. It's a group of friends that are probably a little older than I am, probably like 45 for the past probably dozen years. It's been on for a while. For a long time, they've just kind of been filming the ins and outs of all of their relationships and the breakups and the cheating and the trips to Cabo and all these different things. And just, it's so dramatic and it's well edited and it's just a train wreck. And I enjoy watching it sometimes. My wife and I kind of differ on the reality TV we like to watch, but we both like to watch reality TV. And I've always been, I was into Swamp People back in the day, like not to the point where I was, looking up where Troy Landry was going to be this week or anything. But, like I watched a little bit of Duck Dynasty back in the day. I do like that kind of stuff. And I find it entertaining. I'm part of the problem if you ask some hardos out there. But ultimately I read he wrote a biography and it's self-deprecating. Ryan Russillo actually had him on for it. And I found out he was a Georgia grad and I was like, hey, I'm gonna see if I can get this book, somewhere for a decent price. And I found it for like $8 or something. And it wasn't like this, I got nothing out of it except for about 4 days of entertainment. I mean, I just blew right through it. It was like reading that. Before that, I read 2 books by Nick Bilson. One was that American Kingpin book, and the other one was this book he wrote about the kind of the early days of Twitter, which was pretty good. He does like reported pieces. I've got some other ones I want to read. One of them is The $1 Billion Whale, about this dude. I can't remember. I think he might have been Singaporean who came to America and borrowed a bunch of money and kind of started moving money around. And I don't know, he committed a bunch of crimes, awesome. And stole a bunch of money from a lot of people. So, all right. So last book not really proud of it really. But
it reminded me that I need to do more of it, to be honest.
I feel like my nonfiction day, I feel like my fiction days are over.
Okay.
I don't know that
I couldn't tell you the last piece of fiction that I read that was not, and let me cage it this way. I couldn't tell you the last piece of fiction I read that was not something I'd already read before.
I can't wrap my head around. Well, I can with some stuff. Like I genuinely do want to go back and read No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. Like I love that movie so much that I want to go back. I want to read that book and see kind of, what that's, what I like, what I don't like, I don't know what they took from the movie. I've got no idea. But so something like that does appeal to me. Yeah. But I read a lot of Kurt Vonnegut and I read a lot of, I read Harry Potter and I read some of the Song of Fire and Ice stuff with Game of Thrones and George R.R. Martin. But, I don't know if I'll ever, outside of maybe a book or two, ever go back to fiction.
I can understand that. I don't really have a lot of desire to read it either. I love the nonfiction stuff, and like this piece was more of a philosophical work, just kind of someone's thoughts on creativity and something like that. I can appreciate as well, but I don't know. Life's stranger than fiction in most cases, I believe.
Absolutely, folks. We've appreciate it.
We've done it again.
We've done it again. We've come in without a plan and we've bored you for 50 minutes. And we appreciate you letting us do that. We really appreciate you willingly, consenting to being like bore me now. And we've done it. And but we feel better. And that's not all that matters, but it's what matters right now. All right, y'all take it easy. We'll be back with you next Monday. Tune in to Dawgs HQ YouTube all week long. We got more stuff coming. Take it easy. Rowe. Oh man, we weren't recording.